We got a game 7, Toronto and Montreal. Everybody's screaming, we need more Toronto and Montreal. We had a ton of it during the regular season, but we hadn't had any playoff action since 1979. And now, one game, winner take all, Monday night in Toronto. Hey, everybody, Nick Kypreos here for the Real Kyper at Noon show. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I'm not sure how the Leaf fans felt about the weekend. Montreal with a huge overtime goal to take this series right to 7. Ton of hockey on the weekend. The Boston Bruins, Pasternak. What a show by this guy. And then we got the Vegas, Colorado. We were talking about this even before the season started. Were these two teams destined to go head-to-head? And we saw that. Controversy in that game as well. Ryan Reaves, we'll get into that. We'll get into the decision of going with Robin Lehner. Marc-Andre Fleury owned Colorado as much as any goalie could during the regular season. His numbers were fantastic. In fact, the only couple of shutouts that Colorado's had in about a season and a half came from the likes of a Marc-Andre Fleury. We'll get into that with Mack, so much more. But we are going to start this Monday like we have the last week. Mack, where the hell are you?
Well, we're cruising the hills of Pennsylvania. We're in a place called Dubois, Pennsylvania, heading on this afternoon through Pennsylvania. So it's a nice country.
You're looking good. The RV's looking good. Where are you watching Game 7? Right where you're sitting now?
I'll be watching it. Well, we're playing golf this afternoon, 9 holes. So I'm hoping that maybe in the clubhouse they'll have a nice screen for me for dinner in the game. But if not, it will be in the RV. So, you know what? I watched it last night sitting out on a lawn chair smoking a cigar. So it was a pretty good and having a blue moon. So it wasn't a bad way to watch the game. My analysis may be a touch off, but that's okay.
Nice. Okay, before we tee up Game 7, just your thoughts Saturday night with the Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal. I absolutely loved Montreal's start. When I saw Gallagher get shot out of a cannon on a tenacious forecheck, this guy stood out for me for the first time in this series. It didn't need to be a goal, Mack. He stood out, and it was almost as if he kind of willed a forecheck on the Leafs that resonated right through Montreal's bench. They got off to a terrific start, and without running off with a quick lead, really planted the seed that this could be a long night for Toronto.
Well, you know what? It was contagious throughout the lineup from the opening shift on. And, you know, they played exactly the game plan that they have to play. And that is get the game in the ugly areas. And ugly areas are banging on the forecheck, cycling off the forecheck, things they haven't been very successful at doing. So to me, Montreal had a great start led by the Gallaghers and company. But I'm sorry, that was an embarrassing start by the Toronto Maple Leafs. And they used Babcock's terminology, which really bothered me, that we didn't start on time. I heard Babcock say about starting on time on TV on NBC the other night. Then I listened to the Leafs say, well, we got to start on time. And I'm thinking, oh, no, we're not back there. But listen, they did not start on time. It was embarrassing how they started, and Montreal for 2 periods. And then Toronto played Toronto's game in the third period, puck possession, speed, and they dominated. They dominated the third period, a lot of the third period, and totally dominated overtime. But when you let the game slip away, when you start the way they started, and you got to come back from 3-0 deficit, 2-0 deficit in this game, that's you can't be successful. So that better be the focus tonight. But anyway, look, Montreal, full marks to them. Their kids are leading the way. Caulfield, Suzuki, Kokoniemi, skill guys. They need skill guys to beat the Leafs because they need people to make plays around the paint and around the net. Corey Perry, what do you say about this guy? So Price is the story. Price is the story. You're going into Game 7. But Price right now is the number one reason they're there. Weber, 36 minutes he played, Nick. We know how banged up this guy probably is. It was a great story, but for the Leaf fans, it's scary.
Mac, the Leafs went out and addressed a few things that made them unsuccessful in the playoffs. And I would think that watching Kyle Dubas over the years, that picking up a guy like Nick Foligno probably wouldn't have been his first choice a few years ago. But so much emphasis on character, grit, and the depth of a guy like that coming in. And I know he's been hurt, but overall, we're not seeing that identity of grit go to another level for the Leafs. Not in my opinion, including Wayne Simmons. Spets has been fantastic. Thornton looks old, but I don't know where that start was, and then that extra grittiness that they now apparently have had to take them now into a game 7 here. Mac, I'm really nervous right now for Leaf fans that physically Leafs, I don't know if they where they can move much more on that dial.
Well, we said it, 2 weeks ago that Montreal would have a chance if they could get the game into this area where Weber is pounding people, Edmonston is pounding people, Petrie is standing in there. That they make it hard on the Leafs, that they make it ugly hockey. We've seen it affect Marner and Matthews, but you know what? I don't think it's the Folignos and the Simmons and the Thorntons that are going to be the difference makers. It's got to be Nylander's done his job. It's got to be Matthews and Marner and Brody and Riley. It's got to be and Nylander. Those guys in Game 7 have got to be the guys. Yeah, Foligno can talk, but like in fairness to Foligno, I don't like him as a centerman. He's a winger to me. He should be on the wing. He should be barreling the corners. Now he's got to be a center iceman on the second line. And you know what? There's a lot of focus. He has to be focus driven to be able to handle that position versus being on the wing where he should be because of the Tavares injury. But hey, it's going to come back to the big boys. We saw Matthews storm back after they're down 1-0 with a fabulous game. We haven't seen enough out of Marner. Hey, this is not cute hockey. Marner's cuteness, we love his skill, but the cuteness disappears tonight. It's got to be Marner, Matthews leading the way, and see what happens. That's what it's got to be, and they're capable of it. Matthews is capable of dominating this game. Price is the only thing that can really stop Matthews, in my opinion.
All right, I want to get into this a little bit with the Marner because Mac, his puck over the glass, and I think someone tweeted the other day that he's had 4 or 5 of these penalties in the playoffs, and it's kind of mind-boggling. But this one in particular, where Mac, I don't think I've ever seen Mitch Marner flat-footed.
Yeah,
and that to me is a bit of a tell. Now I'm watching Mac, and no one's really talking about this except me and you right now. But when I see Mitch Marner at 27 and a half minutes in game 1, and then add another almost 24 in game 2, and killing penalties, Mac, your best player, and we don't see it often, and Brian Burke talks about the fact that you don't want your star player blocking shots. I'm not sure I want my top goal scorer or puck, playmaker playing almost every minute shorthanded, almost every minute power play. And I'm just wondering right now, Mac, is it too much? Are we seeing a flat-footed Marner because he may just be tired?
Well, look, the minutes are one thing that fatigues you, but they're hard minutes because it's a battle out there, and Montreal have made it into a battle, and those minutes are even. you can say 24 minutes, but if you're in a 24-minute game and you're playing a free flow game, but when you're in a playoff style game and logging those kind of minutes, you're 100% right. That is a different. Those are different minutes.
Mac, killing penalties. Like I got a chance to kill some penalties in Hartford. It is the hardest thing when you are dealing with stops and starts and straight lines and angling and getting in and out. And when Sheldon Keefe plays Marner like that shorthanded, and there are opportunities, and yeah, everybody is talking about how bad Montreal's power play is. But what they're not saying is how it's tiring Mitch Marner.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we're seeing that a little bit. Then, maybe he's rejuvenated for Game 7 and he steps up. But until this point, I have no doubt in my mind it's been a huge factor that Sheldon Keefe has overused Marner, especially shorthanded.
And here's the other thing. When Marner is killing penalties, he's still a skill guy. The grinding penalty killer automatically throws that puck down the ice. The skill guy tries to sometimes be a little cute and go off the boards or off the glass because of his skill and thinks he can do it, and he get caught. So you know what? It was a combination. I didn't like the call by Keefe on the goalie interference. I'm sitting in a restaurant watching it with no sound, and I said to my buddy, I said, "That's not goalie interference. There's no way that's I saw 2 replays, no goalie interference." And they go to that call. I didn't like it. And then you're short, and then you're caught, and it was a difference maker. And so yeah, fatigue and Matthews. You take the fatigue of Matthews Marner, you take the pressure on Matthews Marner. You know, how do they respond tonight? I got a funny feeling Matthews will respond tonight. Hopefully Marner will, but Montreal. I mean, there's no pressure on Montreal right now. They are feeling pretty good about themselves. They've taken it to 7. A lot of pressure on the Toronto Maple Leafs group. And I'm sitting here thinking, we're going into a Game 7, and we've got Price versus Campbell. Price, who's been spectacular. Campbell, who's been really good. This is a Game 7, everything on the line. Price versus Campbell. Campbell's been good. Price has been great. This is a lot to ask, and I don't know what more you can ask from Jack Campbell because he's given them a chance. So it is an interesting test. Toronto are the better team, skill wise.
I want to go back a little bit to, and you brought the subject up, is the goaltender interference, Mac, and I try to explain to people that like the league has done everything that they can humanly possible to allow for more goal scoring.
Right.
The last thing they want to do when you look at all the rules changes that were specifically made to create more offense, the last thing they want to do is take goals away. And in saying that, it's got to be pretty blatant that a goaltender was impeded having a chance to stop the puck. Either someone is in his blue paint or, someone is blocking his ability to get back into the play.
And everybody knows
that wasn't the case here. That wasn't.
No, and everybody knows, Nick, that was changed by the league. That was well discussed that we are going to make some adjustments to this rule. Am I wrong on that?
Oh, I don't. Here's the deal, Mac, and this is not just me talking to Sheldon Keefe, but I'm watching around the league, and I don't think coaches or video coaches do enough of watching every other goaltender interference around the league. If they've watched it, there's not a chance that they would think at a 1-0 score, 5 minutes into the third period, that would be that you'd be willing to gamble another power play opportunity on that play.
I agree.
It's baffling to me. And now when you factor Bergevin's earlier call in the series on goaltender interference on the Thornton little touch, you'll never see 2 worse goaltending challenges in a Stanley Cup playoff in history like we just saw in this series.
I agree. And you know, I mean, I guess it's easy for us, but I'm telling you, I was sitting there watching it, and I said it. That is no way that's goalie interference. Do not go there. But anyway, look, this is what it's all about. This is Montreal, Toronto. Who would have ever believed that Montreal Canadiens, with the high flying Habs, would have to take it to the trenches to beat the high flying Leafs? So we've got a change here of philosophies, and it's you know what? It's going to be a fun game. I have a hard time believing that the Toronto Maple Leafs are not going to win this game tonight. I have a hard time believing that.
And poof, just like that, Mack is gone. A good effort, though. Traveling in the RV. He's in the Poconos somewhere. The internet wasn't our friend. We had to end that a little early. Now, do we really blame it on the mountains in Pennsylvania? I happen to think that Jill unplugged his RV. I think that's just what happened. She got sick and tired of us, and she just unplugged it and said, "That's enough. Let's drive this RV." So what do? Like any time that we don't have Doug MacLean on this show, we go out and find analysts that are better than him. Better looking, more entertaining. That's why we're going to my good friend John Shannon, former executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada, currently with Bob McCowan on his podcast. I welcome John Shannon in to mop up out of the bullpen for Doug MacLean. Shanny, are you a lefty or a righty?
Nick.
A lefty or a righty out of the bullpen for Mack?
Right-hander.
Right-hander. Attaboy.
So let me get this straight. Doug's playing golf, cigars, he's drinking wine, and we're shocked he's not available?
Yes.
Seriously, for 10 years. For 10 years we've had to do the cleanup. We might as well do it another day. And I could have done it from my Winnebago, but I thought that would be so.
But we do know who's really calling the shots in that RV.
Listen, Mrs. McLean has always called the shots. It doesn't matter whether you're in the RV or not. So,
guys, we're getting ready for the show. Just go behind the fourth wall a little bit. And Doug's like, oh, what do you want to do? Like 10, 15 minutes? And Kipper's like, oh, why don't we try the hour? And then he dictated that back to Jill. And I just saw the fear in his eyes. He's like, I can't believe I have to say this message. Really, really made my morning.
Jordan, we're lucky. We're lucky we got him for 15 minutes.
Big time.
So John, and the best part of having you on is that you're mopping up for him. And I just can't wait to see the look on his face. I didn't even tell him, don't worry, we got you covered. We're going to go get John Shannon. So that one, I can't wait to see his expression.
Well, I'm looking forward to listening to Wednesday's show for that. Saying,
yes.
Well, the ratings plummeted.
Exactly.
I mean,
boring. You're boring. You're no good. What else can he hit you?
All I'm going to do is recite, the numbers we did on trade deadline day, Nick. We did okay on trade deadline day. Just remind
We had a great day.
Yeah, there we go.
Had a fantastic day. We hit over 1,000 live viewers for a good portion of that show. So thank you for that day. Now, can we follow up?
Before we forget, not that I'm trying to run things, but happy Memorial Day to all our friends south of the border, and for those people that served in the armed forces on this day in the United States. I appreciate what you did for all of us for freedom and democracy.
See, that's what I love about you. You don't even live in the States like Mack, and you would remember to do that, and Mack would just talk about selling condos.
The internet has no boundaries, Nick. You have a huge following in the United States. We know that.
Okay, John. Were you able to listen to most of Mack's gibberish?
No, I understood him. Actually, It was kind of scary. I kind of agreed with him with a lot of stuff.
But, okay, did you agree with him that no pressure on Montreal, Toronto?
I think there'll always be pressure in a seventh game for both teams. You know, the issue for me is that I'm not sure that and Ben Sherratt and the rest of the D-core there can and Jeff Petrie can more of the load now. I think that they've been at the max all series long and done a really good job. Edmondson as well. So to me, the pressure, if there's any, I don't carry Price to maintain that same level, and the pressure on those 4D who have played yeoman service, particularly the last two games.
Carey has been very good, but has he been spectacular? And is he the reason why this is going 7 games? Is that the one factor that there's still room in his $10.5 million bag to pull out some tricks?
No, I don't think he's let in an odorous goal yet, and expect him to. Price does once he gets in the groove, is just be solid. Don't make any silly mistakes. You know, Jack Campbell hasn't made any mistakes either. Tell you what, when you see the saves against Spezza, although I think they won that game in the end. That was the 2-1 Leaf victory. But and I was talking to a friend about this the other day, saying, you know, Price has been great, but he can't score goals. You know, if he could score goals, then that'd be a hell of a story. But he'll do his job. I guess that's the best way to put it. We know that he will. You know, if the Leafs get 3, they will win. I believe that. If the Leafs get 3 goals, the Leafs will win because Montreal has a difficult time getting 3 goals.
The blue line, didn't get into this with Mack, but the Toronto Maple Leafs, no Muzzin. You just can't disappear in game 6 and expect in 48 hours to have a better feeling of a groin. It just doesn't work that way.
Weeks. Gone for 3 weeks.
How concerned are you in terms of now the depth that's missing out of Muzzin and what the pressure it will do to, say, a Bogosian and a Dermott?
You know what? Sandin's going to come in and play, so that means the guy that they took out to put Dermott in, who made the mistake, goes back in. So, speaking of pressure, the defensemen 5 and 6 or 4 and 6, depending on how you want to put it, Sandin and Dermott are the 2 guys that will be completely under the microscope. And if I'm Dom Ducharme in Montreal and Alex Burrows and the other coaches, I'm just sure that I put the puck in their corners all night long.
Oof.
And try to create another turnover. Nick, this is where a guy like Corey Perry, you know, makes his hay. You know, when he senses fear line the other team's defenseman, you know, Corey Perry's going to be all over both of those guys, no matter what side they play. And I think that's something that he and the other forwards for the Canadians. You know, it's funny. There are a couple of situations for Montreal after having a really strong start of the series. Where's Josh gone? Josh Anderson better from a Montreal perspective. You can talk all you want about how good the kids have been, Caulfield and KK and Suzuki in the last couple of games. Josh, who signed a deal, got to elevate. And you know, is he hurt? I think he banged up a little bit. But guys like Anderson, guys like Perry, to me, are going to be the difference makers if Montreal is going to win tonight.
And for the Leafs, when we're talking about veteran presence, it's been pretty good all year, John, when it comes to the W's and the added veteran presence of a Thornton, a Simmons. Spezza has gone well above and beyond the call of duty. And then you added Foligno. One of those 4 guys has to step up here and be that type of guy that you're talking about. Corey Perry's been able to provide Montreal.
Well, I would argue, Nick, that 2 of 4, because I think Jason Spezza has already done that every game anyway. And I don't expect him not to show up tonight. I think that I'll tell you what, I have so much more respect for Jason Spezza through the second half of this season and what he's tried to do for this hockey club in this playoff series, more so than anybody else. But you know, whether it's Nick Foligno or Thornton, and I'm just not sure there's there anymore for Joe. I mean, God bless Joe Thornton, but I think he's working on fumes right now. That becomes an issue, and they don't. Wayne Simmons has done some good things, but I mean, I remember Wayne Simmons scoring double digits on power plays for Philadelphia. Why isn't Wayne Simmons in front of the net, in front of Carey Price more? Why aren't they creating more traffic in front of Carey Price? Why aren't they doing at their end, the offensive end of the ice, what Montreal has done at times to Jack Campbell and trading traffic in front of the net?
Well, plenty of questions that'll need answers if the Leafs lose here. But for the most part, we do believe that the reason why they dominated the North Division is going to be the same reason why they're advancing to the second round. There isn't other than Carey Price, there isn't a real reason for anybody to believe that Montreal can beat Toronto.
That's a pretty big reason, Nick. I mean,
I know it is.
He's going to give Montreal a chance to win.
Yeah,
he will give them a chance to win. You know, and with no Chris, we know that for sure now. With no Muzzin, Sandin on the blue line, the Leafs do have a few insufficient spots, some deficiencies that you know veteran players can take advantage of. You know, in the end, though, if Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner play the way we saw them play for 56 games this season, then there are so many comparisons to what we witnessed earlier in the playoffs with Leon Draisaitl and Edmonton, when the Jets did a pretty good job against them. And by the way, Montreal did an amazing job against Matthews. I'm sorry, with against David and Draisaitl for most of the part this season as well. Those four big pterodactyls back there, big guys, big wingspan, have done a pretty good job against Matthews and Marner too.
All right, John, we're going to enjoy that one tonight, but there is an NHL World outside of a Toronto-Montreal Game 7, isn't there?
What, are you serious?
Yeah. Well, let's start with Vegas and Colorado, and before we dissect into that throttling of heads are throbbing today. Throttling of Vegas by Colorado. Your just initial thoughts when you saw and heard Robin Lehner starting instead of Marc-Andre Fleury, who did a terrific job against Minnesota.
I mean, actually, I thought it was coming based on what I believe Pete DeBoer. I think he. I also think that if he had played Fleury, it would and they lost, then he would have been in another dilemma as he was between games 6 and 7 of the previous series. So I thought this was the night they had to play Lehner, and now it's easy to go back to Fleury. Listen, I think last night the only way they were going to win that game was on a lark. It was going to be fluky if they won last night.
Yeah,
just that other team is so rested, running on all cylinders. I mean, not only McKinnon and Rantanen, but look what Samuel Girard does. Look what Cale Makar does. Philip Grubauer wasn't really challenged at all last night. They're I laugh at John Cooper's talking about Ferraris and Jeeps for Goudreau. You know, the Colorado Avalanche are one of those V12 Jags. They are running on all cylinders right now. They are doing something right. Everybody's pulling in the same direction. They're kind of fun to watch.
It was a clinic last night. And
Friend Darren Millard's in Vegas, and he was a little heartbroken last night. I think he thought they had a chance, but
we're not going to completely write them off of this series based on game one, are we?
I think it would be easy to. It depends. Like what's going to happen to Ryan Reaves? You could see it a mile away when it was 4-0. That the only way that the Vegas was going to get through the game was to try to create some level of intimidation. They tried to do it. And the intimidation wasn't for last night, Nick. I mean, I don't have to tell you. It was for the remainder of the series, right?
Yes. Yeah,
it
that's
wasn't
generally
for last.
The way it works.
That's right. And so, did Ryan Reaves cross the line? Did Max Pacioretty cross the line with that bump back to the head of Girard?
Were you okay like me on the hit? The Graves hit on Janmark?
I thought it was fine.
Fine.
I thought it was right here in the chest first.
Yep.
I mean, was it a bit late? Maybe it was a bit late. I don't know. But I didn't have. He got a penalty for it. I mean, we still do have penalties. And every once in a while, what comes back in is that even if it was a legal check, somebody has to come back and push back. I guess again that goes back to the mentality that I've never played in the NHL, but that becomes of fighting for your team.
I've watched it 4 or 5 times, maybe even more, and I still can't get a clear look. Were you able to see something I didn't, i.e. a knee to the head? John, there's some talk from players that there was hair on the ice, that there was hair pulling involved. So keep an eye on that.
Are we talking about the Graves thing, or are we talking the Ryan Reaves thing?
Ryan Reaves now. We're into the scrum.
I'll tell you. Oh yeah, that was, to me, that was, there was the cross check to Grubauer.
Yes.
He cross checked Grubauer to the back of the head as he was going down, and then he used the other hand. And I mean, did I see hair pulling? I didn't see hair pulling, but I certainly saw gloves. I certainly saw big gloves in faces on the ice while the lines were trying to break things up. Ryan Reaves is a big man. He's a big man. He's tough to control.
They saw blood and hair on the ice, and I don't think it's Ryan Reaves' hair.
No, well, it's and there's no. I mean, Colorado just is a team that's not built to push back to that style of hockey. They're just not, and I'm not sure why they should have to. No, they killed them on the power play. I guess then that's the answer. But you don't want to see players get hurt. You don't want to see precarious situations on the ice. So between Reaves, I'm a Pacioretty fan, but I did not like the hit on Girard, the bump back on Girard directly to the face.
Okay,
the one that they rescinded.
The bump back was because of a shoulder, not a stick.
Pure face,
right?
That's principal point of contact, man. So we'll see what happens there too.
I don't expect anything to come of the Pacioretty, but I do expect Reaves not to be available for at least a couple of games, maybe 3. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's suspended because the referees called a match penalty. And then that means basically the referees have said, hey, player safety, you have to look at this one. Still at this point waiting to figure out whether player safety has called for a hearing. They don't play, there's not as much hurry. They don't play until Wednesday now. So the Golden Knights have a couple days to rest. So I suspect there'll be a hearing. I do think that Max will get fined. I really do. I think that's
Which
the
is
wrong
nothing,
message
John.
to send.
Does nothing.
Well, no, I know.
Nothing.
No, but it's an acknowledgement that the play shouldn't happen. And it's an acknowledgement that the play should not. At the moment, it's nothing, but there should be at least an acknowledgement to say, hey, listen, stop it. That should not happen.
Is just speaking to a few people around the Vegas Golden Knights and whether or not they think that Reaves can kind of be compared to a Tom Wilson scrum, and one, maybe just throws a punch. The other one throws literally Panarin down.
Yeah.
Is there a comparison at all for the league, George Kypreos?
What they called the match penalty. Referee said he went above and beyond and got tossed out of the. Remember, Tom Wilson didn't get thrown out of the game.
Yeah,
came back.
I don't
and
know
actually
if that
assisted
matters
on a goal.
anymore, John.
No, but what it does do is it's basically a paperwork thing, Nick. But what it does do is it says to everybody, Reaves cannot play the game, and he cannot play until we have a hearing. Tom Wilson didn't even. Tom did that. So this to me was, whether it was just a reaction by the officials, or a discussion. If we have situations like Wilson again, please, let's elevate it. Let's escalate the situation, and that's what the referees did last night by giving him a match penalty.
What do you think it ends up being for him?
Well, I don't know if there was a phone call to him, because once in a while, player safety or the league phones these players and phones the clubs and said, "Hey, listen, he went beyond. We're not going to do anything, but you've been warned a little bit." That was a vicious cross check to Ryan Suter into the goalpost in the previous series that got nothing.
So you think there's a chance Ryan Reaves escapes this? Because I can't see that.
Well, if there's going to have to be, if they do suspend him, and I think it'll only be one game. If they do suspend him, they're going to have to cite a reason. Was hair pulling, if there is blood, if there's eye gouging, right? Stuff like that we couldn't see. These will have filed in their reports to the league. That they're going to have to give a reason. Otherwise, I don't know what difference there is in the situation and the Reaves situation. Again, it's literally an administrative difference that they made because they called a match penalty on Ryan Reaves, which gives the league now gives the league latitude to do something that they didn't really have the latitude to do with the Wilson situation, which we all would have loved them to do, but they didn't.
I kind of had some fun last night watching the animosity and the big check on Janmark, and then watching Reaves. And I said, this kind of feels like maybe Detroit and Colorado 1997, and it's not even close because we don't have the same cast of characters that we had, i.e. Claude Lemieux, who is as hated as anybody in the history of the game. Yet if Vegas wants to kind of go down this path a little bit, is there a chance that it could actually help them, benefit them, because Colorado doesn't seem built that way?
Well, I mean, the only thing, this is such a game of playoff hockey, is such a game of intimidation. You saw Carrier and Cale Makar at center ice.
It's a good trade-off, I think.
Thank you, Core. I'm
just.
But I'm just, no, but
I'm going out on a limb on that.
The only way that Colorado is by their power play. 4 goals. I was concerned at the point where last night where the referee's going to lose full control of the game. Some would say they did. You and I have been in this game long enough to know that they actually didn't lose control of the game last night. Referees lose full control of a game. They actually brought it back in to play it at one point and did a solid job after the Reaves situation, but even before the Reaves situation. So that becomes the big concern. No Kadri. I mean, and Nas is not the biggest guy. But Nas will never back down.
No, he's got pushback.
And so the only way that Nate McKinnon can push back is similar to Connor McDavid. He just beat you with his speed, which he did last night. So listen, if Vegas wants to try it, and now after what happened last night with the score, referees are going to be on high alert, and if Marc-Andre Fleury can stop those extra 5 power plays, then Vegas has got a chance. But Colorado will beat you on the power play at this point.
All right, you mentioned Cale Makar a few minutes ago. If he is not already the best defenseman in the league, he will be for the next 10, 12 years.
I tell you what, he is, and have you met him, Nick?
I have not, no.
I'll tell you what, something special. I've met him at a couple of golf tournaments and been around him a few times. We are talking a really, really person. This ability to play this game, he can stay healthy, and that's always a big thing. If he can stay healthy, I think he could dominate for a decade. He really could.
His skating is head and shoulders above everyone else. He's got it's Erik Karlsson in his prime. It's incredible the lateral movement this guy shows. The skates, the 10-2, the shifting, east-west. He's already, if not the best in the world, right up there.
He made a play late in the first period last night where he basically started at the right point, moved all the way to the left point, moved down the left side, moved in front of the net, and had a scoring chance, all within about 3.5 seconds.
It's phenomenal.
And what it does do, too, is that if you have somebody like that on the blue line, pay too much attention to him, then you got McKinnon as a forward to take advantage of all the extra space as well. Those are the tools that this team has that are just are beyond. Tampa's got some, but I don't see a combination like Makar, McKinnon anywhere else in the league. And then tell you what, maybe the most unsung superstar in hockey is Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah, he's a horse.
And we in our country, we never see them enough. NHL, they play in Winnipeg twice. The rest of the cities once. See the Avalanche play, and we don't see Rantanen play. And we have a real appreciation for Gabriel Landeskog because he played junior hockey in Kitchener, and he become one of the great leaders in the game.
Yes.
To the point where in talking to him a couple of times, I actually think he thinks it's his team, which is a good thing. And the players own the team. And if you can understand that and comprehend that and manage through that, put yourself in good stead.
That remains a consistent from generation to generation, those captains. And I'll never underestimate a letter C on a hockey jersey. And Landeskog has delivered. And we'll see where it goes. But we're in for a great series, John, in Colorado and in Vegas. And the other one that I don't think disappointed, and we know we have a questionable game-winning goal out of Gaudreau on Nedeljkovic. But I don't think the 2-1 Tampa Bay Carolina disappointed much either.
Although I must admit that we are so in love with watching fans, sometimes we don't watch the game. And I've admitted for years and years since 2006 that I'm a closet Caniac. But we are relieved to see people back in the seats. I think sometimes we get distracted whether it was a good game or not. I expect that series to go a long way. But it'll be difficult to beat Tampa. Victor Hedman, oh my goodness gracious. Victor Hedman is so good. You know, when you look at all those forwards, you look at Braden Point, and a guy like you know, Cooper talked about Barclay Goodrow and being a Jeep. I think there's going to be an endorsement deal there for both of them. I do. It's gone viral. Even John admitted after the game that it had gone viral. But guys like Barclay Goodrow, they know their role, and you know, a good hockey team is like a good game of dominoes. Everything falls into place.
God, Goodrow's
That's what Tampa is.
Goodrow's going to have to owe Cooper like a lot of rides in that Jeep if he gets an endorsement deal.
I think the deal will be get the Ferrari, and Goodrow will get the 4x4. Now,
I had heard Cooper stole that line from somebody else. I'm not sure, but you should do your homework on that one. So maybe they gotta do a third on the Jeep somewhere else where he sourced it out. But anyways, it was a fun quote by Cooper, and well said on his foot soldiers.
What about your Islanders, Nick? What about your pal Lou? Can they win in Boston?
Yeah, goal scoring still a challenge, John. And for Lou and Barzal, this is where Anders Lee is really missed around that net, because Boston, as skilled as they are, world class with Pasternak and Marchand and Bergeron, those guys can score from 40 feet out, and they can get their noses dirty for the hard grinding goals 3 feet off the blue paint. They'll beat you any which way.
Who I'm happy for, I'm really happy for Jake DeBrusk. We're biased because Louis is a pal of ours. Jake did not have a very good season, whether between COVID and, you know, not getting very much ice time, and the Wolves a couple times by Ruth Cassidy, in my opinion. But boy, oh boy, he's had a really good playoff. It has it's great to see him smiling on the bench again, having a really good time contributing. And you know, when it's Jake DeBrusk and Taylor Hall, two people from Edmonton in the end, one way or the other, that are working on that line. It's been fun.
And John, earlier in the show, I was talking about Foligno, and it just hasn't resonated into a solid fit for the Leafs. It didn't kind of transcend into that whole depth kind of feel just yet. And of course, we're going to watch Game 7, and this will be the second game since the injury for Foligno. So I'm sure he's jacked to have his best game so far as a Toronto Maple Leaf. But Taylor Hall has been able to reset that top six in Boston. And it is a different look with Taylor Hall as a Boston Bruin.
And the interesting thing is, I think that Taylor Hall understands his role is really important in all of this. I think David Krejci has made Taylor Hall a better player. And I think he's the right cog in the right machine right now in Boston, and done a solid job, to the point where it certainly a ton of sense for both Hall and the Bruins to try to extend their relationship more than just this year. He wasn't as effective in Game 1 as he was in the previous series against Washington, but it's only one game. It's tough to measure. Hall has only been to the second round once in his. He didn't get to the second round. He's never been to the second round in his playoff career.
Yeah,
because they lost. New Jersey lost to Tampa in 5 games. So this is new territory for him too, and he seems to be thriving on it. The other guy that came over in that trade, Curtis Lazar, centerman for the Boston Bruins now, and talking to a few people that know Don Granato, they actually said the one guy losing Hall was one thing. They really did not want to give Curtis Lazar up, because he's a prototypical team player, role player, great attitude. We saw Nick, you and I, when we did the Memorial Cup, when he was the captain of the Edmonton Oil Kings.
Yeah,
he hasn't changed one bit. There's always a smile on his face. You watch Curtis Lazar a lot of really small things really well for the Bruins. 12 forwards are as deep as they've ever been.
And he's found a good fit there in a checking role.
Playing with
John,
Sean Corelli. So that way we can get Doug happy because we mentioned Sean Corelli.
Oh, Max ecstatic. Playoff time, Corrali does find a way to rise to the occasion.
On the second hole, he's on the second hole drinking wine and smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. The internet did not break down.
No,
the internet
it did
not break down.
And Jill didn't
Mack
pull the
plug. Unplugged the wireless.
Just some news coming in, John. No surprise here. I think Gary Bettman upheld the suspension for Kadri, meaning that he lost his appeal with the league. And we got to know for sure it's going to go to an independent arbitrator here. You don't go this far and then quit if you're Kadri in his camp, right?
I don't know what they have to lose. I mean, maybe a little bit of money, but not very much. He's, in theory, he's served 3 of the 8 games already. So by the time the arbitrator,
even if he can get 1 knocked off, it'll be worth it.
So, I mean, in theory, right now, Nick, and all the Vegas fans that are listening, don't jump on me. He would be suspended in the 3rd round if Colorado keeps this up. I mean, I don't think you go this far. You are going to go and take another look at what the third-party arbitrator thinks and says, because it's playoffs. It really is only games because there's no money at stake, right? There's no salary at stake.
Yeah.
If you can be reduced or get money taken, they don't get paid in the playoffs. So from that perspective, I don't know what they have to lose.
You touched on the energy of the fans, especially south of the border. We saw 2,500 in Montreal. The Leafs, the province of Ontario, shut down the Leafs' request yesterday to allowing 2,500 fans, I believe, and now they're going to allow 550 frontline workers, John. So they've kind of softened it a little bit. I'm thrilled.
For this 550, and frontline workers have never received enough credit for what they've taken us through in the last 14 or 15 months.
We'll take whatever we can get, but as far as playing a difference in Saturday night in Montreal, 2,500 people, is that enough to have got the win for Montreal or be a contributor? Do you buy that?
It's hard to question. I mean, what was nice to hear finally, Nick, even as a viewer, was sound as opposed to canned sound.
Yes.
Or boo at the referee, and cheer for a goal. I mean, that was nice to hear and see again, rather than something that was orchestrated on a computer.
No, and I don't blame TV or Hockey Night in Canada or NBC for.
No. That's more the arena themselves, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a new story. It's a brand new story. We'll take any type of new story that we can get, especially when it comes to our great fans. But boy, oh boy, to listen to some people describe it as a difference maker, to me was a little overhyped, a little overplayed.
Well, you know what? When you been through this, Nick, you've been through the post-game interviews, whether they were at your locker or whether there was in a press conference setting. You're not going to give out all your information. You're going to try to find something that keeps everybody happy, and it's a good story. See fans back in. Yeah. So it's an easy story to use. It really is.
All right, John, where are you going to be watching the game tonight? I know Mack will be in the Poconos, sitting in his RV. How about you?
Well, I will be sitting there with all my friends, alone, down in the office, just watching both games, enjoying both games. Probably tweeting out a few observations and people getting mad at me for saying things on Twitter.
Well, let's start with your first message to the fans. Final score tonight out of Toronto.
That, Nick?
Oh, I missed it. I'm sorry, you cut out on my ear. What did you say?
Montreal.
You're taking the Canadians.
Nick.
No, I lost you, John. I'm sorry. I'm having a
Favorite.
little. Max brought the internet clipping out on me.
It sounds like we got a Canadian supporter over there.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, I'm not a supporter. I'm not a fan. I'm just that's my observation. I think that Carey Price will be the difference maker, and I think Corey Perry will score the winner.
Well, okay. Yeah. I'm going to go with the percentages of the regular season that tell me that Toronto put themselves in a position to get home ice advantage. They're going to take advantage of it. They're deeper. But the game's played on the ice, man. It's not played after 56 game look at the standings. So we'll see. And do you like the Islanders' chances of going 1-1?
I really do like the Bruins. I think the Bruins are going to be through this whole thing right now.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised to see a Boston Colorado Stanley Cup final.
And I'd be remiss if we're talking Boston, just not to mention, like, we know Ovechkin's our greatest goal scorer, if not this generation, in the history of the game. But man, oh man, Pasternak is awfully close to having that type of career.
Well, 25th in that 2014 draft.
Can this guy score goals?
Tell you what, it like Ovi. Use nicknames. I apologize. Like Ovechkin, he can see how much fun he has, and to me is really just as important. Look the way he dresses coming into the arena. Look at how many times he smiles. I mean, somebody in the marketing department somewhere fell in love with him too. Look how many TV commercials he's doing these days. I mean, this guy's the real deal. He's fun to watch.
Remember the sunglasses in the outdoor game? He's got a passion for and a zest, not just for on the ice, but off the ice as well. He is he's like Mike Bossy to me with just power.
He does have a quick release, eh, Nick?
Oh boy, pure as any in the history of the game. Okay, Shanny, I'm going to let you go. Enjoy the game tonight. Great job out of the bullpen, closing out Doug MacLean's, who lasted, what, 2/3 of an inning? I mean,
and just
terrible.
For the record, I mentioned Darren Millard's name, and he owes me $5.
Is that American or Canadian?
I said American. I only told him American. So.
All right, pal. Hey, great job. Enjoy the game tonight, okay?
Great seeing you. And don't forget my little Buddha. I got to go to my LCBO and get my little Buddha. So.
All right. We got peach tea for you or grilled pineapple and rosemary. Those are your choices, John, and just 90 calories.
I love pineapple.
Do not forget, you could find John on the Bob McCown podcast, available on YouTube and wherever podcasts are readily available, right?
Yeah. And by the way, tomorrow, and I got the idea from you, we have Mark Curtin on. Because tomorrow is the start of ALS month in Canada. Tuesday is Lou Gehrig Day around Major League Baseball, and we're going to sit and talk about the trials and tribulations of having ALS and how to fight through it and how to find a cure with Mark Curtin tomorrow.
June 20th as well, ALS walkathon, John. So, yeah, Mark was terrific and so inspiring, and we got to get that message out every day. Not just the month of June, as you mentioned, is ALS month, but we got to find a way to combat this horrific disease. And Mark's leading the way for us. All right, Channy, thanks again, pal. Enjoy the game tonight.
Talk to you soon.
And for all of you, thanks for sticking around. We gave you a little bit of Mack. We gave you some Shanny. You should be all set for your Game 7. So enjoy the snacks. Go get yourself some little Buddha. And watch what we think might be one heck of a game. First time watcher, hit the subscribe button, leave those comments for us. See you here on Wednesday. Real Kyper at noon. Have a great one.